that's kind of that same concept is there some technology that helps that person preview and get through that space and show them where they need to go, right?
So quickly, Angela, if you could just describe that, and then we'll go to one last, we have time for one more?
So one of the, I developed this model, and part of the model was enabling people to be the best they can. And some of the strategies or interventions we can put in the built space are things like giving people opportunities to preview a space. So it could be maybe a second level with a balcony, so you can overlook, and if any of you know Wilson's work about biophilia with scanning the terrain, the prospect or refuge background, if you don't know what it's like, the condition is that we're all born to be hunters and feed ourselves, and for survival we would scan the terrain and look for meat to eat. And then at times we need refuge because that big lion might come and attack us, right? So bringing that into the space of what is the prospect of me being able to engage in the space in successful ways to the level of quality that I can, given my abilities, how can we put interventions in the space? So some of the things I've thought about are like putting different levels for this previewing, so you can educate yourself on a space. So for example, if you're on a second level and a person with autism was able to preview, look over the space and say, that's the lobby, that's where I can go to the washroom, there's an elevator there, there's a snack shop there, whatever. And how many people are on there? Do I feel safe going into that crowd, or is there kind of a back way? Because people with autism traditionally don't like a lot of touching, and they need a little more personal space. So that type of intervention doesn't need a lot of technology, right? This is the built environment that we can create. And we can create that by the spatial layout, so the spatial composition. We could do it with textures and patterns and colors and lights. We can even communicate, as you're walking, the floors change, right? There's soft flooring, hard flooring. The corridor gets wider. When a corridor gets wider, it usually tells you this is space for more than one person. Okay, so you got to expect there's two-way traffic. And we have all this language in our environment that we sort of take for granted, but some people don't know that. And it could be from a different culture, it could be your mental capacity, it could be your medications, a lot of things. So this whole idea about communicating through previewing, for example, can do a lot to raising the person's abilities, and also, making them feel better about themselves.
Actually, I just wanted to add to that, because we did talk about previewing before,
Yeah,
and just hearing you talking about it right now is, we're doing that in workplace. We're actually, but not to the extent to which you're talking about.
Right.
We're putting in, because we're moving people into non-dedicated workspaces that are paperless. You don't have a designated seat. We're going to a ratio of anywhere to 1.3 people to one seat. So there's a lot of sharing, there's a lot of movement, and there's a health and well-being strategy around that is making people move around, making them connect differently with colleagues. Wayfinding and orientation is absolutely critical in that process to lower stress levels. Mm-hmm. So we're putting in reservation systems where people can go online and trying to create the benefit where they can choose to sit next to a colleague because they're going to be working with them all week. They can find a colleague. They can see the floor plan in advance of going into the office. They can pre-book a meeting room. They know all the tools that are going to be in there. They could go online in advance of their meeting and understand if they need training on how to set the video conferencing up. So we're using technology in that way for the average worker right now in corporate workplace. But what you're talking about is taking it to that next level, which I think is really fascinating for the people who really need it.
There's all kinds of strategies we could use.